Yo, what is going on, guys? It is your boy Nick here, and back again with a brand new video today. We're going to be continuing my series in which I review every single Marvel Cinematic Universe film up to the release of Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Today we're going to be reviewing one of my personal favorites in the series, Captain America: The First Avenger. Captain America: The First Avenger was directed by Joe Johnston and has an immense cast, so I'm just going to talk about the cast individually, kind of like how I do with my Thor review. First off, I'm going to talk about, obviously, Chris Evans as Captain America. I don't know if I've ever discussed on my channel before, but Captain America is actually my favorite superhero. It's my favorite comic book hero of all time, my favorite Marvel character. And for me, in my personal opinion, I think that Chris Evans was honestly just perfect casting as Captain America. I think about these last 11 years that we've had this Captain America character, and I don't think they could have found a better person to play Steve Rogers. Chris Evans, in my opinion, just does such a great job of being a physically intimidating person that Captain America is, while also having the good nature in Captain America's heart there, because Captain America is a good person. He's a good man who just wants to do good. And I think Chris Evans does a fantastic job of doing that, because you could just tell from the get-go that Captain America never wanted to hurt anybody. Steve Rogers is just a man who wants to do the right thing, and he's, as he says in the movie, he doesn't like bullies. And, you know, what better way to get rid of Nazis who were the biggest bullies of all time than go into war and stopping them. But overall, I'm just really happy that they cast Chris Evans as Captain America. Had they cast someone else to do this role, I really just can't see someone else doing it with the same just passion and, I don't even know what word to use, just doing it the same way Chris Evans does. I really don't think anyone could have done it better, so I think he's fantastic. I think Haley Atwell was also perfect casting for Peggy Carter. Now, we don't see her all too much in this movie, but the scenes we do see her in are fantastic scenes. She has great on-screen chemistry with Chris Evans as well as the other people in the movie. And if you guys haven't actually seen the Agent Carter series that was on ABC, I highly recommend going and watching that if you guys are more interested in seeing Haley Atwell's Peggy Carter. She's fantastic in that series, and I highly recommend checking it out. It's more of a deep exploration for this character, who's really an underrated character, and as a Captain America fan, I think people will really enjoy seeing Agent Carter. Hugo Weaving was also amazing in this movie. So Hugo Weaving is obviously an incredible actor, and he's someone who I really feel thrives in playing the bad guy. So I feel like Hugo Weaving's probably most popular villain role was whenever he played Agent Smith in The Matrix, who he does an amazing job playing at that. And Agent Smith is actually a character that I hate Agent Smith with a passion. That's because of how well Hugo Weaving plays his character, and I think Hugo Weaving does a phenomenal job of playing Red Skull, or Schmidt, I believe his name is, in this movie as well. Man, Hugo Weaving I thought was amazing casting for Red Skull. He's an actor who just thrives in the bad guy role, and I'm glad that they hired the person that they did to play this thing. Hugo Weaving knocks it out of the park in this movie. I think the whole cast knocks it out of the park. Tommy Lee Jones is also really great as Chester Phillips in this movie. We finally got a superhero movie where Tommy Lee Jones was good. The last superhero movie that Tommy Lee Jones did, if I'm remembering correctly, was Batman Forever, where he played Two-Face. Not a great movie, not necessarily his fault, but I'm happy to report that in Captain America: The First Avenger, Tommy Lee Jones was great. He was finally great in a superhero movie, and I think, his performance in this movie is probably one of the more underrated performances. I was watching this movie last night, and I was watching Tommy Lee Jones, this guy is really good in this movie. He's a really good actor, and I feel like his performance in this movie does not get talked about enough. Captain America: The First Avenger is also a great introduction to Bucky Barnes, played by Sebastian Stan. Now, we don't see him all too much in this one, but that's okay, because they kind of do some more interesting things with Bucky down the road. I'm not going to spoil anything, obviously, but Sebastian Stan just nails this role, and I think in the long run they did a fantastic job casting Sebastian Stan as Bucky Barnes, and I think that people who maybe were underwhelmed with him in this movie they're gonna be a lot more grateful down the road. Let's just say that. Also, another person who doesn't come out in this movie too much, who is still very good, is Dominic Cooper as a young Howard Stark. You see him a lot more in the Agent Carter series, which I recommended earlier, so I recommend checking him out in that one too, but he actually does a really good job at playing Howard Stark in this movie. And, very different person from Tony Stark, as you see, even though he's Tony Stark's father. But there's also, the similarities there. And I think that the writing for his character there was interesting. I think Dominic Cooper just plays him very, very well. There's also a Marvel movie where I feel like the action scenes, especially the stunt work, just stands out from the previous movies. The previous movies, had some great action sequences, as I've mentioned. I think that, the stunt work is impressive. You can just tell, the stunt people in this movie really just went above and beyond for this movie, especially considering that it's a film with war action going on. So I really think that Marvel just absolutely nailed Captain America: The First Avenger, and I think it's technically a perfect movie in terms of its stunt work and action sequences. As I mentioned, the war scenes are done very well. They're very interesting to look at, and they're not overly violent like if you were to watch Saving Private Ryan or something like that. It's very PG-13 war stuff, so it's not overly intense for anybody. And I also think that as a period piece, Captain America: The First Avenger is a great movie. It takes place in the 40s during World War II. I think that everything they did, from the costume designs to the set pieces, the way that they talked, everything they represented the period so well, in my opinion. And I also think that the music that they chose did a great job of representing the time. So, like, I think that, like, the writers did a great job at trying to make a piece that took place in the past. I think that this film just excels at that. It really does. I also love the idea of Hydra. So Hydra is like a fictional form of like Nazi inspiration or whatever. They're basically Nazis, but like not exactly Nazis, and they're, you know, I don't want to go too into it because it's really just there in the movie, but I thought that Hydra was a brilliant concept, and I love the way that it's executed in this film. I think they make a fantastic force to be reckoned with, a fantastic just antagonistic group, and I think that the payoff of seeing these guys in this movie, especially the stuff they do down the road with it, just, oh, it's so good. I can't, like, I'm fanboying right now. I can't really explain how much I love the stuff they did with Hydra and Captain America in this movie. Of course, I can't talk about a Marvel origin story without talking about why it's a great origin story. The reason I love Captain America so much is because it's a very heartfelt story about a guy who just wanted to do the right thing. You know, as I said, he just doesn't like bullies, and that's why he does what he does. He's a man who's, ever since he was young, he always wanted to do the right thing. He's a good man, and that's why he does the things that he does. And I think that this story does a great job at making you feel for this guy. You understand kind of his background and that he was bullied, and so instead of trying to become the bigger bully, he instead wants to get rid of the bullies. And I think that's a very admirable quality about Steve Rogers, and I'm glad that they incorporated that so well into this origin story. And it's one that I just love it so much as a Captain America fan. It's just, this movie is like nearly like everything I wanted it to be. I loved it when I was a kid, and I still love it now, and I just think that everything they did about it was like nearly flawless. You know, as I mentioned, Captain America is my favorite superhero, and so as a superhero origin story, I guess have a bias towards it, but I think that's a very well-made movie. There's not many things that I feel are wrong with it. There are some things I will get into in just a second, but like, as someone who just loves this character so much, like, I look at this movie and I think to myself, that is an amazing superhero origin story. And to be honest, the Captain America trilogy, all three of them, are some of my favorite movies of all time. It's got my favorite superhero of all time. And even though I will say that this isn't the best Marvel movie and it's not a perfect Marvel movie, it's almost there. And I think it's definitely one of the best that Marvel has to offer. And I think that it's also just, it's fantastic. I don't really know what other words to use to describe Captain America: The First Avenger. Now, there is one like minor flaw that I did notice when I was watching this movie last night, and that's that I kind of feel like the first and the second act feel somewhat rushed with the way that they transition. Because the first act, it goes by fast, and the second act is you know, like not as fast or whatever, and that's totally fine. I just feel like the way that the two of them transition into each other doesn't feel as smooth as maybe it could have been, but nonetheless is still a fantastic film, and that's just a minor little nitpick flaw that I can really just overlook in the long run. Overall, Captain America: The First Avenger is an amazing superhero movie. It's a fantastic superhero origin story. I'm going to give it an overall rating of a 9.5 out of 10. I'm going to give it an overall grade of an A. Some of you guys may be wondering why I maybe didn't give it a 10 out of 10 or 9 out of 10 or an A plus or anything. To kind of explain my rating system, I used the rating of the numbers to kind of talk about the entertainment aspect of it, and these are all just based on my opinion. These are not actual facts. And I thought that, you know, me personally being a Captain America fan, I find this movie more entertaining than a handful of other Marvel movies. So whenever I give it a 9.5 out of 10, that's just my personal enjoyment of the movie. But then when I give it a grade, that's given to its overall quality. And I gave it an A because it's so well done, but I didn't give it an A plus because, as I mentioned, that one flaw about how I feel like the first and second act don't transition as well as maybe it could have. So if you guys have been paying attention, you notice I gave this movie the same grade I gave Iron Man. I think that in terms of quality, Iron Man and Captain America are about the same. I think they're amazing superhero origin stories. However, with the rating, I gave this one a higher rating than Iron Man. I'm not saying it's better than Iron Man, and like, you know, I said in terms of quality, they're about the same for me, but I just personally enjoy this one more than Iron Man, so that's why I gave it the higher rating. And there's going to be some people in this who watch this review who are going to like Iron Man more than Captain America: The First Avenger, and that's totally fine. This is not a fact-based review. Nothing I say about movies are facts except for the actual things I say. These are just opinions I have, you know. So if you guys like get confused by some of the ratings and like that, that's kind of my explanation for that. So that was my review of Captain America: The First Avenger. I had a great time talking about it. It's one of my favorite superhero movies of all time. I hope you guys enjoyed the review as much as I did. Make sure that you hit the like button, hit the subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you get notified about my latest videos. And make sure you tune into my channel in just a few days to watch my review of the next movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, The Avengers, which is also the last film of Phase 1. Hope you guys enjoyed the video today, and yeah, that's been it. Peace.